Hello, Jeane Huang, are you there?
Oh, yes. Hi, Ivan. Thank you very much for inviting me to Beyond the Hustle. Sorry that I cannot join you at the studio at this moment because I'm traveling on the road.
No problem. Yeah, we got you up here on the screen, so I can kind of see you virtually. But yeah, we're recording live. Yeah, you're in the air right now. Thank you for coming on the show. As you know, this is a new concept talking about, I think, very old things. So just to give you an overview about this podcast and what we're going to explore today, we're going to cover a few areas that I'm interested about your take on. As you know, you have been in the cultural management, artistic industry here in Taipei, Taiwan for the better part of 30 years, if I'm correct?
No.
Longer, shorter?
Just closer to 2 decades, that's all.
Closer to two decades. We'll keep it at that. All right. So the areas we're going to focus on, I really want to get to know your why, your purpose, along with the wisdom that you've realized over the years, going into, what I like to call peak phenomena, how these things manifest, and of course, the reasons and the driving questions.
Well, I really don't want your audience to fall asleep because culture management is really a kind of dry and serious type of management business. So I don't know. We could chat about like anything, maybe more related to their lives. For example, like festivals management,
right.
Or yeah.
I think what's super interesting too is I know that originally what exposed you to a lot of this art, this culture, travel, and experience has kind of to deal with your life as an ambassador's wife, if I'm correct.
Well, that too, but it actually went back all the way back to my earlier careers in working at the National Cultural Associations and also the Performing Arts Centers. And I realized that just like any other business, I think culture and art business also need to be managed, especially for the artists. Like we really want artists to be artists only. And so my goal is actually try to, art and culture sounds kind of a little bit vague or abstract sometimes. I don't even know what art is actually. And culture can be many things. And I mean, mafia has culture too. So,
of course.
But that's not what I meant. But I'm saying that actually my purpose is to help not only the artists, but people who run cultural institutions would know what their key performances indicators would be to run a good cultural institutions, and what we call a KPI. A KPI is usually meant for very commercial or financial institutions, just to make sure they have the sheet balanced. But I think it's a little bit trickier for the cultural industry because, especially when it comes to venues like cultural heritage site.
Right.
You really need to know what to be aware of. Like you can't even use the fire for the kitchen, or
right.
There's just a lot of different type of indicators that you need to follow, and there in this recent 20 years there are more and more places in Taiwan where there are antiquities or like old houses, historical houses turn into like an art place or cultural places. And so the more professional management has to come in to safeguard the cultural heritage sites, and also at the same time for these art events could go along with it. Yeah, so that's basically cultural management is. That especially that's what I'm doing right now.
Right. I hear this, and the vision that comes to my mind is like a conductor almost, whereas the people in your band or your orchestra are the stories of these different cultures, artists, and overall moments that are considered valuable.
I would say any CEO or any person who's in charge of a company, it's a conductor.
Right.
So, or for an orchestra. And for me, it's a teamwork. So I wouldn't want to call myself like the most important person, because I really relied on my team and also all the stakeholders. So I think, you could say that as an orchestra conductor, but as long as I don't have to face the audience, that's fine.
That's a good
I
point.
have my back
Right.
for them.
That is interesting.
I like to stay behind the scene, yes.
Right. And of course, when it comes to art and culture, you're in this industry. I can tell you're extremely passionate. For the viewers, the audience, give us perspective on like why this matters for people, art, culture.
I really don't know, actually, because what is art? I don't even know what it is. Well, just something to make you feel good. And I think a good artwork is something that you could look at it over and over again, but some people look at artwork as an investment, So, but of course, like cinemas or theaters, musics, that these are all art, and human beings are very very special species, and this is something that we have. The human being have like kind of we have the, how do you call that, privilege,
right,
to have that kind of gifts and to be able to express our feelings through those interesting artistic forms.
Right.
So yeah, it's important. Yeah. So but really, especially for nowadays, and anything can be art. And so it's very hard for me to define what art is. So I would say it's become a lifestyle now.
Yeah, that's
for everyone. Sure. Yeah,
that's for sure. Is there somebody in your life that you feel instilled this I guess almost this fascination with art, show business? Is there someone that comes to mind that you feel like you've drawn this kind of curiosity from?
You mean a performing artist, or
I mean,
like
in your life.
Artist?
In your life.
Right now?
Could be now, could be the past.
I really can't say that, because I have to stay neutral for all my clients, who are all the artists. If I pick one of them, then no, I'm joking. But if you're talking about someone that's already passed away or in the past, well, most people I admire actually are scientists, not artists. Funny to say that, but scientists probably are also artists,
right,
in their own right. Yeah.
Right. Any scientist that comes to mind that really?
Yeah, I once went all the way to this scientist's hometown where he was born, in Belgrade. Can you guess who that is?
No.
Nikola Tesla.
Really?
Yes. He's my hero.
Why is that? What is it about Nikola Tesla that instills this fire?
Well, he is really, really a visionary and then a scientist. I mean, you're talking about Madame Vision, and I think he was the one who, of course, there's so many inventions, came from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the fact that his loneliness and isolation, that shows that he's actually really ahead of time.
Right.
Right. He died in New York in a hotel, Like no one knew,
That's wild.
right?
Natural cause, or
Nobody knew.
so it's still a mystery?
A lot of his files are missing.
Yeah, I've heard some very interesting things about Nikola Tesla.
Right.
We'll explore some of that too in terms of like 2024 and some of these huge technical advancements and how you feel that kind of connects to the art and cultural industry or humanity as a whole. We won't get too deep, but moving into more of this idea of like what you believe in, you know, and where you draw your wisdom from. What do you think forged your beliefs, or what do you believe in right now?
Well, I believed in that if you love something, that if you want to do something, you have to love that first. You have to really be fully passionate about what you're doing, and that's all. I mean, this sounds very cliche, but and this is what I've been doing. Sometimes it's not profitable, and sometimes it's very, it's dealing, because if you're dealing with artists, you're dealing with cultural industry, that means you're dealing with unpredictable or unknown factors a lot. Creative people, artistic people could be very, very unmanageable. And but I'm not complaining about that. So we just have to respect all kinds of contingencies. Yeah.
Right. Do you feel like there's some foundational influences for that belief?
Or for like who I am right now, I think. Yeah, I went back. It probably will have to go back to my childhood. I was born and raised as a Catholic, which is kind of unusual for Taiwanese, and because both of my parents work for the Catholic Church, and this was in a very little town in the northeast of Taiwan. It's a beach town, but we were not able to visit the beach because during that time there's a martial law imposed on, from the ruling party at that time, imposed on the island. So almost no one else could approach the coastline because it was regarded as national security, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so people always wondering like why Taiwanese people don't like to visit going to the beaches because, we were forbidden to go there when we were young. And so going back to my growing up with Belgium and Dutch priests and Spanish nuns and Filipino nuns, and they're kind of like already cross-cultural experiences for me. So I was able to be exposed to Western cultures by thumbing through all these big books of paintings, maybe Van Goghs, Rembrandt, and Cezanne's. But I never had any ideas what they were and what kind of works they were. It was just like what I would do at that time daily, so just kind of rendezvous around the priest library. And also I had to help with my brothers. They're all altar boys, of course, during the time that growing up with the church. And so every Saturday, Sunday, me and my brother, older brother, we had to play the film, for the congregations or for the village peoples who would come along and to watch Charlie Chaplin's or Harry and Larry's, with all these black and white films. I think that time was like 16 millimeters or something. It's quite ancient type of film. So in a very poor village, but I was growing up with a rich culturally influenced background. So I think that really opened my eyes. I didn't know that at that time. But of course, after I grew up and I just already had the, how do you say that? not happy, but had I could adjust anything that is different or new or foreign.
Right.
Yes.
Kind of it could adapt.
Right. And also like be very open-minded all the time.
So leading to now, do you have a faith that drives you? Like, do you believe in God or a higher power, universe, spirit science, aliens? What do you think you gravitate towards now in terms of that compass, that North Star?
Of course, I do believe there's a higher power, but the name of it, I don't think I'll share with you right now at this moment.
Do you believe in luck?
Yeah.
What do you think luck is? Because I hear that story almost of like small town in Ilan, and here you are, middle of Taipei, Taiwan. Like, how much of that is contributed?
I didn't say Zealand. I just said northeast town.
It made me think of Ilan.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Nice guess.
So, in terms of that, how much of that do you feel like for where you are now? Of course, there's always this conversation about luck, hard work, passion, creativity. What do you think those parallels are to get you where you are today?
Well, in work, I never believe in luck. I believe in disciplines and preparations. I'm very pessimistic about things. You know, like I would try my best to prepare for works and pessimistically, but I think I'm optimistic about the results. So it's kind of contradictory, but this is how I work. You know, I always think of the worst scenarios would happen, and I always try to create a safety net for that. And because especially when I do festivals that involve big crowds, that involve a lot of risk management, you know, especially like, you know, you don't want to have any lawsuits or penalties from the agencies, and so that I have to think of every single consequences of each event or each measurement. So I do not believe in luck when I work. But in Chinese, we always say 缘分. That is something else. That's kind of like a predestined type of relationship, or that is totally different things. And I believe that in relationship, you know, like you would meet someone which is probably, well, you meant to,
Right.
Yeah, you meant to meet this person, or what do you call it, chances? I don't know if it's what you mean by luck.
I mean, luck. When I think of it, you know, for our audience, it's a very, I guess you could say, hard working, work hard, put in your hours. You know, you got to really go through blood, sweat, and tears, which I think is very important. Yet there are always these elements of luck or these elements of working smart, not hard. So here on the show, we're curious about that. Like, what creates that?
Well, my experience is that I do need luck for good weather when I am running an open, you know, outdoors event.
Right.
That's when I need luck. But I don't know, people could change the weather now. So
I mean, that's another conversation.
Right.
There are some debates on that.
So I guess that's luck. Or like in Taiwanese especially, they go to the temples first. They always pray for the good luck for the openings, or you know, when I was working with the film festivals, and they also have to pray for the projector doesn't go wrong, you know. Or even some of the shops manager, they will put the guai guai, which is a type of Taiwanese chips.
Right.
Guai guai means like stay good, be good, stay still, you know.
Right.
So they'll put it by the cashier machine.
Right.
So they won't go wrong. And I heard that some countries in Scandinavian, they're doing that now. They're doing the Taiwanese guai guai
Wow.
chips. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's interesting that there's, of course we say the word luck, but on the other hand, there's words, and you mentioned scientists and whatnot in the quantum aspects of intention, INT, intention, and attention, and how you channel those intentions and how it then alters reality. So I am curious about what your thoughts are on that.
It's a little bit beyond my knowledge, I have to admit. So, yeah, I don't know what you wanted to know.
I guess I'm just curious about like, how do you cultivate intention in what you're doing?
Intentions. It's a purpose. It's a type of purpose.
I guess it's a form.
It's a will.
I look at it more like a power, just because I know from your resume, your track record, you've cultivated and created many various events, cultural moments, books. So I feel like you're a very strong manifester. So for people listening, I'm sure they're curious about what that intent, like how does intention play into what's allowing you to create?
Of course, every project or every book that I've written, I had to be inspired first. I wanted to be inspired and to do certain things, and there's only very few things I'm inspired to do. So, and luckily so far it's all related to my work. It's all about art and cultural. So I guess it's, and there are many subjects that I'm interested in, but very few of them that I feel very inspired of. So I think if that's what you mean, like, I recognize certain things when I see it, and I know that I'll be passionate about doing it. So I guess that's the intention that you're talking about.
Right.
My intention is never to make money. That's also my problem. Yes. So like, I never have the intention to, like, okay, let's turn it into $1 million bestseller books. So maybe that's the problem. But again, we don't know. Like, some cultural products will have its value probably longer time. It would take longer time than it should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Van Gogh's paintings, right? Something like that.
All right. Would you consider yourself a rebel in your industry or in life?
Oh, this is a big question.
Really?
Yes. But first, define rebel. You mean like I'm different from other people?
To go against the grain. Because I take it that you've mentioned there are certain things that inspire you first, but based on what you've done, I do get this notion that you're always doing something different than what most people are doing.
Maybe,
almost as if you're leading trends.
Well, maybe that just so happened that I'm a person who doesn't like to do things that people have already done before, and for some reason or some chances or some lucks, as you just mentioned, that I always have ideas that people hasn't had yet. But of course, those ideas not all of them were realized by myself. Like when I was young, I was playing guitar and singing, and I wrote my own songs and lyrics, and I'll be thinking, wouldn't it be great? Just this is gonna be a 3 or 5 minutes movie of what I would just sing.
Right.
So then I went to America and I saw MTV and I said, okay, this is exactly what I was thinking. There's many other things. And I think it's my it's my curiosity, and also I don't want to repeat doing things that other people have done already. So I've always ended up, doing something kind of new at that time or ahead of time. And then, for example, the type of the type of books I wanted to create, the types of covers, the types of contents. And this is always, people always said, oh, that's like, we haven't seen this kind of things before.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I guess, and after I created that, and I would always go further, or go forward. And I don't care if people were using them or not. Yes.
Wow.
My ideas.
I mean, you can see now, especially in 2024, the world is moving rapidly. I mean, on that notion of doing things new that's never been done before, is there something that's inspiring you right now that you're excited to do or that you imagine doing?
Myself?
Right now, yeah.
Yeah, I would actually. I kind of like to go back to writing. I have a lot of different interesting scripts, stories, but with the cultural management companies, I'm always very busy in this little tedious, office work. So I would like to have more time to go back to my writing, and maybe some film scripts, cinema scripts, or stories.
Travel?
And traveling, yes, I'm traveling all the time for business, or for pleasure. Right now, on my way to scout some exhibition venues for 2 Taiwanese artists, which probably we would do it next year. And so, I like to have some sightseeings also for the places. Oh, actually, I usually go visit museums and galleries when I'm traveling most of the time. Yeah.
I'm aware that you're developing a new podcast concept called Traveling with Madam Ambassador.
The concept is done already. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? Is that like a deep dive into your lifestyle?
Not really. It just because I had a podcast before. It's called On the Right Side of the Ambassador with the Go Solid Media, and that went on for 2 years, and I think it was quite well received. People are curious about what a diplomat's wife, especially ambassador's wife, is doing, and so I kind of share some of that best kept secrets on that career. And then now more of my audience wanted to know, like, okay, when you travel, what do you see? What do you usually eat? and I
Where do you go?
I was like, yeah, actually it was not because of my how do you call that, my place as an ambassador's wife, but actually it was because I love art and culture. So I usually go to places that's more related to art. Yes. So I think, okay, maybe that is an aspect that I can share with my audience.
Right.
And so we're creating this new podcast called Traveling with Madame Ambassadors. We like to take our audience to places like a little bit like unknown, or more kind of like best kept secret places.
Right.
Yeah. Or for example, like, have you ever been to let's say Antonio Dvorak's birthplace, and do you know the piano he played was still there? Yeah, this is a famous Czech composer.
Wow.
Yes, the one that wrote the New World.
Wow.
Something like that, or like can take you to a church on the rock in Montenegro, and
True hidden gems.
like, why would I go there? It was because my father used to tell me when I was a little girl, like, you have to go to this place. There's several places you need to visit. Well, he's a Catholic, so like Fatima, like, Montenegro, places like this.
I love Montenegro. I got super drunk in Montenegro without intending to. But
And the mountain turns white.
the mountain turns black.
Mountain was already black. That's why it's called Montenegro.
Right. I was going to say that I can tell you get a lot of energy from these kind of experiences. Can you on this show we talk about the Maslow hierarchy, and we talk about the currency of energy and the currency of, I guess you can say, self-actualization. Do you feel like when you're in this state and you're getting this energy from your travel, are these experiences that give you more inspiration, more passion for what you're doing?
No, actually. Oh, traveling it's actually very exhausting, but it's the things that I saw from traveling. I don't know when you say traveling meanings on the road, flying, going places. But actually, when you stay at a certain place and just by standing in front of a painting that you always wanted to see for a long time, and you could stay there a long time alone to be with the work, or just pick up a book, to read in a corner. It could be anywhere. It could be in Belgium or on a boat to Slovenia from Venice. And so those are the moments that I see it as the frozen moments when I'm traveling, and it makes more sense, brings me more meaning to it. And it's funny you would use currency to describe energy. I never see it that way. Could you explain it a little bit more?
Well, for us, from our own curiosity here on the show, I think, again, I mentioned this, Maslow, a famous psychologist who created the hierarchy, and
Right.
once there's certain basic needs covered, food, shelter, safety, security, self-esteem, as we move towards the top, you start to go into elements of self-actualization and then transcendence. And according to his viewpoint and other people on that regard, in that field, they start to feel like there's phenomenons and feelings of bliss, euphoria, dare I say, enlightenment that start to take place. So when I say currency of energy, I'm really thinking of this idea of a future where people are exchanging energetical experiences as a form of trade. So when you tell me stories and you tell me to listen to, or tell us to listen to Traveling with Madam Ambassador, it's like we can hear the energy in your voice talking about traveling. So that's fascinating to me, is like, where does that energy come from, and how come it gives you certain inspiration in life? I know that's a long-winded answer,
but yeah, I see
maybe
what you mean. Yes. So my energy usually will come from, as I just described,
right.
these certain things that I was long waiting to see, or even just a casual casual conversation with people you meet on a boat or in a restaurant.
Right.
But I don't know, people are more careful about like talking to strangers now when you're traveling. Yeah. So
Right. Is there a location on Earth that you get the most energy from, like near the ocean, maybe in the middle of a jungle, on a mountain, your office studio?
it's my bedroom.
Your bedroom?
That's when I fall asleep. Yeah. So I'm kind of I know we're talking about traveling, but
Right.
at the end of the day, I really just want to come back home and just gazing through my bedroom window and seeing that maple tree outside of my windows, and And that gives me like the most peaceful, tranquil feeling. Yeah. So
That sounds very
I'm a
comforting.
very practical person. Yes.
Right. So in terms of practicality, and we are leading towards. I know you have to go soon, so we're coming to the end of our time. What do you think reality is? Is it a matrix? Is it a simulation? Is it random fate? Like what? How do you interpret this reality we're in?
I don't think there's such thing as reality. I do not believe reality exists. I just live for that moment and I feel things, and it's now. Now is probably the reality. And people told me that time doesn't exist either. So what do? We just go along and the 24 hours or all this time that human created for ourselves. It's not even that accurate to go with the Earth, right?
Right.
I mean the universe time. So reality, it's a very deep question for me.
That's a whole nother episode.
I don't know what that is, really. So I'm sorry, the problem I can't give you any answers, and
Totally
I'm not
fine.
sure if there's answer at all
Totally
about
fine.
what reality is.
Totally fine.
Yes.
Is there something that excites you about 2024 or the next 10, 20 years in terms of what's happening with AI, technology, and of course even the art world is rapidly changing with digital?
Well, with a lot of earthquakes going on in Taiwan, and that I don't know, we feel that this is the year of the dragon, right? So feel like this dragon is quite aggressive and vicious, and also rain and flood. Of course, there's something to be excited about. For example, the AI is getting closer and closer to us, and hopefully we can get a grasp of it. And the excitement is, of course, that it's making a lot of my work much better.
A question I always ask every guest, I think I'm going to ask every guest, is the difference between YOLO or YALA. YOLO is a fun phrase which means you only live once. YALA means you always live again. Which one do you believe in?
Yala.
You always live again.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because it's a pity if you only live once.
I find it interesting that usually the people who choose YALA are very spiritual people. And would you consider yourself spiritual?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, if spiritual means that you respect some higher power somewhere, and also you feel powerless sometimes, and so you need to go to another higher sources for help. So I do believe that. It's like I know sometimes some things are beyond my control, and so then I feel like I am actually basked in this whole powerful energies around us, or around the universe, or around the earth, and we're just gonna have to respect that because our brains are so small and we can't comprehend everything. And the universe is so huge. And if you call that spiritual, then I am spiritual.
For sure. And this leads us into our next area, which is I'm very curious, and this is that top of the pyramid, so to say. And I'm reluctant to even call it a pyramid because I think when we go into these waters, there really isn't high or low or left or right. But there is something Maslow talks about. He talks about peak experiences or peak phenomenon. And in my culture, growing up in New York, we have many slang terms for this where we call it God mode or when you're in the flow or you're in the zone and you're just in that, you're in the pocket, the barrel of that wave of creativity or life or experience. Have you experienced that yourself, this peak phenomenon? And if so, can you tell us a story about that? Where just everything was perfect in the pocket?
I am still waiting for that moment. Not yet. Or have I ever had it? Maybe I forgot.
Where things just, everything lines up. It's hard to explain. So, and this is that area where I think when spirituality and reality start to blend.
Maybe it happened before, and I would always call it like, oh, it wasn't coincidence. Or like I was so happened to need that things, and then it came along, and it's the right moment at the right time. Do you mean what that?
Yeah, you're exactly
saying what that means.
You're on exactly what I mean, and I think for the audience too that don't really know you, and I've heard some stories from you and here and there of some things that seem almost unbelievable. And on our last episode, we spoke about the occurrence of miracles, the occurrence of things that can be considered unbelievable, but they happen.
Right. I do have some incidents or some experiences like that, but I wouldn't categorize it as such a spiritual experiences. Or maybe I'm still in the process of, digesting it.
That's true.
Right. So I wouldn't be so quickly draw conclusions that, okay, maybe that's God's work, or so I guess I'm not spiritual enough yet. Yeah, so because I also do not want to be quote superstitious.
Too superstitious,
unquote,
right?
Yes. And I am quite rational about that, and I was always try to find reasons for that so-called coincidences.
Right.
Right.
This is what we're exploring too on this show, is kind of that balance between things we can't really control and of course things in our control. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but I think we're all dealing with that every day. Do you have any ways, practices, skills you'd like to share with the audience to kind of balance that, be in that state of harmony, so to say?
Well, I have friends around me who are good at tarot card readings or all kinds of how do you call that, chart readings.
That's interesting.
And well, in Taiwan, then they sometimes they go to, because there are very few people go to the therapist, but they would go to the temples and draw the cards. Or
that fine line between spirit and science.
Right. No, they just they would ask the local temple guard what to do instead of going to the therapist or going to a doctor. So, I mean, I do have friends around like this. I mean, even they're kind of like from the younger generations too, So I guess sometimes I have friends will be telling me, like, I would say, oh, do you know, for some reason I bump into friends from 25 years ago, or like, why is this old things are coming back, recently so often? And then she would say, oh, it's because such planet is retrograding.
Right.
And then you are destined to see all these old people. No, not age old, but people you knew from the past, or like people you've worked with from the past. Like all of a sudden you bump into them here and there. So I don't know. Like it's make me try to think like if it's really, believable, or because I'm kind of also curious about that.
Well, it's super fascinating to me. I mean, I myself think astrology and psychology are very intertwined. How would you rationalize something like astrology or taboo practices like tarot in retrospect to like religion or science?
Well, I would see them as references, but I would, like in reality, or I mean, back to the reality, when I actually executing something, I would totally forget about what what my friend told me according to the tarot cards or horoscopes. Yeah, I would just look at the core of essence of this particular project or things. I wouldn't think about, I wouldn't follow what the tarot card says or horoscope says. Yeah, because a lot of times they're wrong. Like so. I guess their information is very very general. Like when they talk about Scorpios, what's gonna happen to Scorpio this week. And there's so many Scorpios on the planet Earth, and what are you gonna pinpoint? All these problems. So we'll just see it as a references, and even sometimes just an entertainment or conversations topics.
Right.
Deep down inside me, I really don't really, believe it, actually. But I do think that the Chinese I Ching, the Book of Change, or they have some, scientific formation or structure of it, and it still sustains, whatever is written on it. So that's something probably I would try to make sense of it.
Close to the truth, if there is a truth of this.
Yeah, but it talks about like the weather or the changes of the environment, So I guess it's more like a geographic or biological type of analysis, for the humans environment, for human and the humans environment.
Right. Just recently, there's more and more studies coming out about this consciousness that exists in nature, and even especially water, how there's an intelligence that water possesses. When you hear stuff like this, does that kind of go in line with what you're saying?
It's funny that you talk about water, because water is the one thing I feel thankful every day. Because every day when I'm washing something, and it's like, oh, what am I gonna do without water? So, I think water is one of the most flexible and most beautiful thing in the world. I think water has life. Yeah. So is that what you're saying? Like water has connection with us?
For sure. And of course, I'm also kind of implying like these spiritual elements of water. And
in Chinese literature, we use water to describe all kinds of things, especially to describe the personality or how you should, how we need to learn from water, the way it flows and the way it's kind of fill up the holes and then continue to go forward. It is actually from Mengzi. Mengzi likes to talk about the formation, the shape of water in comparison with the education of how to be a person.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Right.
Of course, predates Bruce Lee. Predates Bruce Lee's famous water monologue.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I'm sure.
I guess in closing, is there anything you're super excited about I know humanity is such a large world, but is there something you're excited about for people, humanity, society in general, arts and culture? Like let's sign off on a high note. What are you excited about with this next wave coming?
Well, I'm excited about to see how human race can have more time to create their art, when the AI would take all the laborers' work for them, actually. And yeah, I know people said, okay, AI also create our works and making movies, but that's different. I still don't think that's art of human. So in fact, I like to see most of the things that we labor ourselves and make ourselves aged, all these things that we can give them to AI. And what we need to do, what we can do now is to really, look at the sunset or the sunrises and meditate and sing and start going back to more creative and in touch with the nature and in touch with ourself. It's like we have been lost for a long times by busy trying to do things. But if I'm excited if AI can do all this for us and we just leave them alone, and we would go back to our original self, and actually, in fact, we'll become more creative and more in touch with the universe, I think. So,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, so Jeane, that's what I'm excited about.
Jeane Huang, thank you for your time. I know you got to get back to your travels.